Hey everyone, how's it going? Azrin here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to another Learn Gujarati with me YouTube video and, of course, podcast episode. Today, I'd like to share how to learn Gujarati at home. This is more of a theoretical episode where I teach you strategies and resources that you can use at home to learn the Gujarati language. See, Gujarati is really different from other languages that exist. If you're learning French or Spanish or English or any other popular language, quote unquote, there are lots of ways to learn them. Classes and apps and books, and you can travel abroad. There's so many different ways to learn, quote unquote, popular languages. But Gujarati, you probably already know, we don't actually have that many resources to learn this language. Very, very, very few resources, very few classes. So as a result, we don't have many ways that we can learn to speak Gujarati. We don't have a lot of methods. There's not a lot of pathways one can use to learn this language. And what I'll do today is I'm going to share some details about how I personally learned it, that you can also use yourself as a way to learn this language. Now, some background first. My family actually is Gujarati. So growing up, I did speak the language, but I didn't speak it all that well. I made a ton of mistakes. My family speaks a little bit of a non-standard variant, so I was already learning that. I mixed a lot of English in my Gujarati, more than most people do. And overall, I remember when I was 14 years old, something like that. I went to India, and when I spoke to people in Gujarati, they didn't understand me. When Gujarati spoke to me, I didn't understand them. Now, as an adult, I then chose to learn the language and actually study it. I wanted to speak Gujarati. I really wanted to speak it a lot better. When I was first starting to learn, I already spoke French really well. I spoke Spanish really well. I was learning Mandarin at the time. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I speak all these languages. I should speak my own language. So I started to actually formally study the language, Gujarati, so that I could, speak it a lot better. So the very first thing that I did, which I highly recommend, and it's the most unpopular advice that I usually share to Gujarati learners. People don't usually, this advice doesn't always stick. It doesn't resonate with people, but it is one of the most highly recommended things that I can tell you. Learn how to read. Learning how to read for me, I'll tell you a story. Learning to read for me was the biggest game changer. And frankly, if I hadn't learned to read, I wouldn't be able to speak Gujarati or understand Gujarati nearly as well as I can today. See, learning how to read did something for me. It opened up the number of resources that I could use to learn. If you can't read, you're really limited as to what resources you can use. If you can read, the number of resources at your disposal increases significantly. So how did I learn to read? Well, it's actually a relatively straightforward process. The good news for learning how to read is there are tons and tons of resources. There are printing sheets on Google. Print them out and you can trace the letters over and over. There are videos on YouTube that teach you the sounds of the language. On Pebble, I think it's called Pebbles Gujarati, there are videos where she will actually do reading practice with you. She'll give you 2-letter words, 3-letter words, 4-letter words, 5-letter words, and you practice reading them. I've got a couple of different reading videos on my channel as well. Anyone who speaks Gujarati, this is the good thing, by the way. People learning Gujarati almost always know Gujarati people, which is lovely. Almost any of them can teach you how to read and write. They might not do the best job, quote unquote, because they're not, trained teachers, but they're going to do an adequate job. When I was first learning how to read, my nana was just teaching me. He taught me the basics, frankly. There's probably a video out there somewhere on YouTube of me learning to, like, my very first reading lesson in Gujarati. I'd have to go find it, but it's somewhere on YouTube. I'm sure that video is somewhere on YouTube, somewhere. I'd have to find it, but and yes, that's the very first thing that I did that helped me tremendously. The other things that helped me to learn Gujarati. So one of them was doing a ton of Gujarati listening. Like, there are so many resources we can use for Gujarati listening practice. Now, they're obviously for native speakers, but still doing a lot of listening was so helpful for me. I used to listen to a lot of Gujarati, um, the what's it called? Gujarati Comedy Factory on YouTube. It's a YouTube channel. Um, that was the primary. I listened to other things as well, but when I was learning, that was the one of the main things that I listened to. So tons and tons and tons of listening. I also did a lot of talking with Gujarati people. So I would use there are some tutors online for Gujarati, and they're not too expensive, which is nice. I'd practice talking with them. I'd practice talking with family. I would try and practice speaking with as many people as I possibly could. And the good news, the one thing that Gujarati language learners have in their corner, the one benefit, the one advantage they have, the thing that's going for them is Gujarati learners, they do know other Gujarati speakers. You know, French learners, they don't always know French speakers. Spanish learners, they don't know Spanish speakers. And I'm speaking from a deep amount of personal experience here, right? So this is one massive advantage that Gujarati language learners have compared to many, 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 many other languages that I've worked with over the years. And so take advantage of that. Other people learning other languages would it's gold what you have. It's so valuable that other language learners would be like, oh my God, I wish I had that for French. I wish I had that for Spanish. So most people don't have that luxury. So please take advantage of it. Now, when you do your speaking practice with other people, it is going to be clunky. That's something worth knowing. Like it's going to be clunky. It's going to be a little awkward, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like I found that for me, I got to tell you a crazy story. So I had this Gujarati tutor at one point, and our styles were not matching. The way that I wanted to learn and the way she wanted to teach did not match in the slightest. However, in Gujarati, we don't have many choices. We don't have like 1,000 tutors to choose from or anything like that. Sometimes you just have to make things work. That's been my experience anyway. And with that tutor, right, we would do these conversational classes that were like not ideal to say the least, but they worked. It was still helpful. It was still actually somewhat helpful. And I still was able to get speaking practice with her, listening practice from her. Like it still was a very, very useful practice. The other thing that I would do a lot when I was learning Gujarati on the grammar front. See, when I was learning Gujarati, there was pretty much one grammar resource. Pretty much one single grammar resource. And that was it. And that was Kaushik's blog. If you don't know it, by the way, just Google it. It's the only really good that I know of, really good grammar resource, apart from now my YouTube channel. Yay. But before my YouTube channel, like the only thing that existed was Kaushik's blog. And so his name is spelled Kaushik. So if you literally search Kaushik, learn Gujarati, put that on Google, you will find his blog. And he's not a native Gujarati speaker, but he learned the Gujarati language. While he learned it, I'm pretty sure I got this right. I think he pretty much documented a lot of the Gujarati grammar that he learned, and he put it on a blog for other learners to access. And so that is one, perhaps apart from my YouTube channel, perhaps the only like easily accessible, user-friendly grammar resource that exists. So I would use that as a grammar resource, but sometimes I couldn't quite, it still wasn't really sticking. I couldn't quite grasp the grammar. So what I used to do is I would just write out sentences as I thought they're supposed to be said. Like I was like, I think this is how it is. And I would just show native speakers and be like, hey, are these right? Can you just tell me if this is right or wrong? And I would get those corrections. And over a process of a ton of trial and error, like a lot of trial and error, I mean like hundreds of hours of trial and error, I figured out a lot of Gujarati grammar. Like I really had to figure it out. One of the reasons why I make this YouTube channel is that I had to figure out Gujarati. Like there was no one to teach me. Like no one really. I had to go figure it out. I remember the past tense. The Gujarati past tense is so weird. It's a very strange tense. And I remember feeling very confused about how to use it. I had some intuitive knowledge from growing up using it with my family, but not enough to do it properly all the time. And the way I learned it was I would just write out sentences show it to native speakers, get them corrected, and try and figure out what the pattern was by looking at tens and tens and tens and tens, like 50, 60, 70, 80 different sentences that are all written out and corrected, and trying to figure out, piece together, what am I getting wrong? So the YouTube channel that I make now, I want to save you some of that effort, but it doesn't change the fact that one very effective thing you can do is literally just write sentences out, show them to the native speakers and ask them if they're right or wrong and where the mistakes are. It's a very simple. See, the thing about Gujarati is that because we don't have a lot of high skilled tutors or things like that in the market, we have to rely on the Gujarati people we know, and they're not trained teachers. So we have to make it easy for them to help us. We have to make it easy for them to help us. And one of the ways to do that is give them very easy ways for them to help you. You can tell them, look, I want you to correct these sentences. They can do that. They can do that. Even if you write it in a transliterated way, like Kemcho, Kemcho. Even if you do that, like, they'll be able to help you. That's also something that I did a lot when I was learning Gujarati. Now, one of the things that's really worth knowing, I think, for Gujarati learners is that now on YouTube, there are Gujarati subtitles on videos. And this is relatively new. I think it's been the past year or so where this has become available. Remember how I told you learning how to read was a game changer for me? Well, learning how to read can help you here as well. There's also a new Gujarati podcast, which is quite popular. It's the Jay Thadishwar, I think. I think that's the name of it. If you literally search Gujarati podcast, there's like one or two that are really popular, and they have Gujarati subtitles. And so what you can do with that is quite simply, when you see words you don't know, hit pause and look them up in Google Translate. Another tool you might like, this one I'll share my screen and show you actually. Let me just share my screen and show you here. You might be wondering, how do I type in Gujarati? If I want to look up a word, like I'm seeing a word, how do I look it up? Well, how do I type words, right? Well, there's a couple, there's like two ways to do it. One is like, I don't know, decent, and it works 80% of the time. One of them is like pretty darn good. So the decent way, if we just go Gujarati to English. So if we open up Google Translate, right? And I just type like with letters, Cho, for example, Gujarati, Google Translate will often write what you're trying to say. So see, there we go. We got the Gujarati script. Oops. And there we go. Now, sometimes that doesn't work. So a more accurate way to do this is you're going to go to Google Input Tools, Google Input Gujarati, Google Input Tools. Here we go. Google Input Tools, we select Gujarati as our language. And now if I type game, we get different options of what game could be. So game, cho, maru, nam, blah, 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 right? We can just whatever you want to type. So that's like a very easy way to like look up words. We can type it in Gujarati here and then copy paste it into Google Translate. And that was honestly, when I look back at my Gujarati learning, frankly, if I were to try and sum it up really nicely, one of the big engines for me was watching Gujarati content and looking up words I didn't know. Like literally, that was like one of the big drivers. Watching Gujarati content and like looking up stuff that I didn't know. That's it. And when I was learning Gujarati, we didn't have subtitles. There were no subtitles. I did it by ear. I'd like listen, be like, oh, I think that word must be this, and try and type it out, be like, I hope that's the right word. But now not all videos, but some videos do have Gujarati subtitles on YouTube. So it's much easier to look things up. Okay. A couple more resources we can use here. Again, being able to read Gujarati help with these, but it's not mandatory. The other one's called Bookbox. I might have actually talked about this in like a video a long time ago. Let me show this to you. Oh, it's on YouTube. Bookbox, excuse me. Again, is another way to like watch stuff in in Gujarati and look words up. They're like stories, but they have Gujarati subtitles. So you can like look stuff up. As you can see here, they even have some which are like Gujarati and English. Bookbox has an English channel as well. So this is a Gujarati Bookbox, but there's an English one too with the exact same stories. So it's really easy to read a story in Gujarati and then also read the exact same thing or listen to the exact same thing in English. Another similar YouTube channel, if you want, that that has a lot of Gujarati subtitles. It's called Gujarati Fairy Tales. Gujarati Fairy Tales. If you just Google it, if you just search it on YouTube, you'll find it. It's the first one. Gujarati Fairy Tales. And these also, I think most of them, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that the vast majority or many of them have subtitles. I'm 99% sure they do. I haven't watched them in a long time, but these are another type of content you can follow and use. And a couple more things. Again, I'm trying to give as much as I can here because I know how difficult it is. A really simple activity to do at home to practice Gujarati as well. Takes 15 minutes a day. Just write out sentences about your day, almost like journaling. Just journal about your day to the best of your ability and show it to native Gujarati speakers that you know and have them correct it. Such an easy way to practice, such an easy way to have the Gujaratis in your life help you out as well. I think those are the main ones. Like this, I'll give a couple more strategies as well, but if I really tried to boil it down to things that are like easy that pretty much anyone can do, I think writing out journal entries or writing out sentences, showing them to Gujaratis in your life, getting them edited, that's super easy. Finding good, friendly Gujarati people in your life and trying to practice speaking with them. And even if it's just like really broken, even if it's kind of choppy, even if it's not perfect, that's still really, 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 it's still a really effective thing that you can do. That's so easy because you probably know someone who's Gujarati. By the way, if you don't know anyone, on the off chance that you don't, this is also such a great thing. There's 2 apps you can use. One is called Hello Talk. The other one is called Tandem. And there are lots of Gujaratis there who will practice with you. Now, sometimes they're a bit, I don't know, flaky, or sometimes some of them are socially awkward, frankly, in my personal experience, not everybody. But there are plenty of very friendly people on there. In fact, one of the people on Hello Talk, in fact, he was my language exchange partner. He helped me a lot. He taught me a lot of Gujarati. And then he worked for me actually for a while. Like we really, really got along, and he was a part of my life for quite some time. So there are lovely people on Hello Talk and Tandem for you to practice Gujarati or really other languages as well. You have to stick with it. It's not a perfect resource, but for Gujarati, we can't wait for perfect resources. We have to make do with what exists. So lots of speaking practice with people we know, people on Hello Talk, people on Tandem, right? Lots of writing practice and showing it to native speakers to get it corrected. A very simple way to practice our Gujarati. This YouTube channel is now available for you as well, so you can use this as a way to practice too. I would highly recommend learning how to read. Lots of resources for that on YouTube. It's not crazy difficult. Learn to read Gujarati. You'll find lots. Printing sheets in Gujarati. Very, very straightforward. Not too bad. And those are kind of 4 big things. Okay. I'll talk about a couple more things, but those are the main ones. But I'll still share a couple more resources, a couple more methods. I'll share my screen again here. If you learn how to read, which again I highly recommend, one resource that you can use, which I'll show you, that it's an app and a website. It's $20 a month, I think, something like that, 15 or 20. Let's switch the language here. We want Gujarati. Here we go. This is an app that you can use to do listening and reading practice. I would recommend starting with the mini stories. Here we are. It's called Ling Q, by the way, the app, Ling Q, that's the name of it, Link. And there's these stories, right, where, let's go page view, right? We have these stories here, really, really simple Gujarati, right? Mike roj savare 6 વાગે ઉઠે છે. તે સવારનો નાસ્તો બનાવે છે અને કોફી પીવે છે. તે કામ પર પોતાની ગાડી ચલાવવાની જાય. Like it's really, really straightforward. There's an audio in the bottom left corner as well, so you can listen to it. Any words you don't know, you can click on it and it's going to tell you the meaning, which is really, really cool. You can save unknown words and practice them as flashcards as well. I think, I don't know for Gujarati, we can check. Oh, there's no tutors for Gujarati. So there aren't any Gujarati tutors, but anyway. But there's a community section. There's there's a bunch of really cool stuff. A bunch of really cool stuff in the app too. So highly recommend it. Again, you do have to be able to read Gujarati to use it. The other cool thing about this app is you can import. Let's say you're trying to read like a news story or something like that. You can import it into the app. Here we go. So you can either, oh, I didn't know you can do this. It's kind of fun. You can even import stuff on your, I've done this on YouTube. I've never done a Netflix before, which is kind of fun. But anyway, but even like a web link, text files, ebooks, like you can import content into the app. And then that way you can use the app as an internal dictionary to look up words, if that makes any sense whatsoever. For the more intermediate and advanced learners, one thing I can recommend as well is Pratilipi. We want Gujarati though. Gujarati. These are all like books and stories in Gujarati online. You just read them. They're all free. They're all free, which is so cool. Now, again, you have to be able to read, but it's such an amazing resource. Such an amazing resource. Like, wow. Really like amazing resource to learn Gujarati. Again, I'm highlighting again just how useful it is when we're learning Gujarati to learn how to read the alphabet. You can increase your vocabulary. It opens up stuff like this, right? You know, if you can read as well, I'll tell you this. Here's another great way to learn Gujarati, more for the intermediate speakers, but still useful. If we just go to YouTube and we search like, let's go to, I wish there's one channel that has them. We can probably, okay, I'll give you this one actually. Mona Lisa Laklani. There's lots of channels like hers. It's not the only one. This one that came top of mind. Teaching Kishan is another one actually. So this one here, playlists. What you have here are from grade 1 to grade 11, grade 12, excuse me, Gujarati curriculum made by the Gujarat government. This is like all the textbooks, everything facilitated in Gujarati. So again, more for the intermediate learners. You do have to be able to have a basic reading ability, and you can literally follow the entire curriculum. Like it's a gold mine if you can read Gujarati at a basic level, and you already have a little bit of a base in the language. There's other channels like this too, like teaching. This one's definitely more advanced. You have to have a much higher level of Gujarati to use this. But if you look here, he teaches like, oh my God, like everything. Like he teaches, Lord, I don't even know. Environmental details course, Gujarat, history of Gujarat, Gujarati literature, culture of Gujarat. These are for students in Gujarat, right? General knowledge, Indian geography. Look at this, Gujarati grammar. He teaches grammar in Gujarati. So like, again, you need a much higher level to use his resources. Like this is not for beginners for sure. Like definitely not for beginners. But totally a resource, like 100% a resource that I would recommend if you've got the level for it. Let me stop my screen share. There we go. Yeah, anything else I want to recommend to you guys? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, not really. Like, it's really is like at the basic level. If you're trying to, like, at the fundamental level, it's about writing stuff out, having people correct it. Super easy, really like so easy to do. Using this YouTube channel, that's easy enough. I think listening to Gujarati a lot and looking up words you don't know. Like such, even if it's like, Lord, even if it's like a more advanced, but you hear one or two words, like what does that word mean? Just look it up, right? Highly recommend you learn to read. It'll make things significantly easier, even if you have a basic reading ability. Um, and yeah, I think those are a lot of the fundamentals. I gave a lot of other tips throughout this podcast slash YouTube video as well. But yeah, that's that. Okay, let's wrap it up there. Thank you for watching this. Hope this is useful for you, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye. Outro.